Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. I hope you've all had a fantastic Friday so far. Today we're going to be diving into our daily cryptocurrency market update, and we've got a lot to get through within this video, so strap yourselves in, guys. The market saw a little bit of a downturn yesterday, nothing out of the ordinary for the cryptocurrency space. And this could be due to a number of different things, and we're going to get into that within this video. We're going to be looking at some of Biden's comments yesterday in regards to the sort of Russia-Ukraine situation. We're still, as a market, facing a lot of headwind from the uncertainty sort of the uncertainty within the economic landscape. This is going to see crypto, people take risk off the table, and crypto is still, for your typical investors, a very risky asset class to be investing in. Now, I would argue crypto has actually done very well in the sort of in opposition with all this. It's actually done exceptionally well. If crypto was a nothing burger and there was nothing, behind it, and it was just, a fad, it would have died and rolled over already. It hasn't done that. In fact, I would argue, sat at 40k, we've sat very, very strong given everything that's taken place recently, and given just how much of an inflationary event this was. Caused all this run, you'd expect, some kind of a pullback from that, and it's actually holding up very well. And I'm actually anticipating more continuation to the upside. We spoke to you in yesterday's video, the one prior to this one, well worth a watch, whether we're in a bull or a bear market. Ultimately, I still think we're in a bull market. I don't think we see our traditional sort of 2-year drawdown bear markets that we previously have seen. I think crypto's matured and is at a different place than where it previously was when it was moved by its own fundamentals. But we spoke about that a lot in yesterday's video. So we're going to go over a number of things. We're going to be talking about Biden's comments, going over the sort of macroeconomic landscape again, talking about, this was from a Fidelity analyst, and he's essentially comparing Apple to Bitcoin. And we've often compared Amazon to Bitcoin, and there's huge similarities there in the sense that these products came out of a technology that is going to revolutionize the world, and they both saw huge amounts of adoption, or are going, certainly Bitcoin is going to see huge amounts of adoption. The likes of Apple and some of these other stocks, these sort of tech stocks, or prior to that PC stocks, really captured a lot of the world's attention. Also, huge news, absolutely huge news. Biden expected to issue executive order on crypto and CBDCs next week. Now, we've already had this news. We had it from Barron, but this is sort of reconfirming it. And there's a number of articles that we're going to dive into here. This is coming, and this is either going to make or break crypto. Lots of people out there still think that the US couldn't ban crypto. They absolutely could. Does that mean that people won't use it? Well, it's the same as the sort of drug laws and so on and so forth. People break the law all the time, But by them banning it, it really cripples a lot of the industry. And I don't think that's what they're going to do. I think we've seen a number of countries out there, such as, and it's kind of bad timing, Russia, who are going to regulate crypto and actually view it as a currency and want to encourage its growth and development as they see benefits from it. Also, the Ukraine passes law legalizing crypto as threat of war looms. Ukraine actually has in terms of percentage of the population, quite a high percentage of their population use crypto. So they get it, they understand it. Obviously got some very smart people within the Ukraine. So we're going to get into all of that. We'll be taking a look at the charts, of course, taking a look at the dollar, which isn't really doing a lot. Let's start with what Biden said yesterday. Market wrap. This is from Blockworks. BTC stocks tank after Biden says threat of Russia invasion very high. That is not very president-esque of him to be saying stuff like that. There's lots of contradictory reports and data that suggest that it's not actually very high. What I personally think is taking place, and it's very easy for me to say this, by the way, being sat in the UK, I'm sure it's a very real situation for both individuals on either side of that border and people surrounding. But I ultimately think this is just a political standoff that will not escalate to war. I think both sides of this don't really want that. Although I really don't understand why. Why would a president come out and say very high, there's a high likelihood of something taking place? Why wouldn't you sort of try and keep calm and not panic your citizens? It just doesn't really strike me as the right comments to. I wouldn't pour petrol on the fire if I was standing too close to it. I don't know why this would be the. I don't know why he'd use the terms very high. It strikes me as weird. It strikes me as very unpresident-esque. Couldn't really care I'm apolitical on this channel, even though I do have my own political views that perhaps shine through every now and then. I try and stay as apolitical as possible. So I don't care what side you're on, left or right, doesn't make a scrap of difference to me. I think that they're just borderlines that have been drawn among us that people, it's just another reason for people to hate one another, which we don't need any more reasons for. But it just seems very strange that he'd use the words very high. And I think markets kind of that had maybe on the news that Russia were withdrawing troops and so on and so forth, that had sort of put money back on the table, decided then to take it back off, given that this would be pretty catastrophic for markets. War is not good for markets. It's only good for bankers. We know that we've still got the sort of Fed interest rate hikes looming. I think markets are largely pricing this in right now. And I think that they're going to have to up interest rates. I don't actually think it's a bad thing that they up interest rates. I think they need to do something to restore faith within the Federal Reserve and the dollar. They need to watch the sort of yield curve as well. We've not really spoken to you about yield curves. Yield curves is something extremely important to look at if you're looking at finance, because a lot of things are tethered to it. But they need to rein things in after they've allowed inflation to get to where it is today. And they're saying 7.5%. I'm saying more like 15, 20% in real inflation. My bills personally in the UK, I have a number of houses that I have to pay for. I drive cars. I've noticed even food shopping's gone up. I went out I ordered a takeaway yesterday, and even takeaways are getting expensive. It's they've got to do something to kind of make the fiat systems around the world actually worth holding, and they know this. So we've still got this sort of headwind. I think they're going to do a 25 basis points interest rate hike, so 0.5%. Maybe a 0.5%. I think markets can handle that. And I still think, Bitcoin is essentially where Amazon was in 2010. Please go and look at the Amazon chart in 2010. You'll see it. You'll also notice that prior to 2010, 2 years prior, there was an inflationary event, and they faced the sort of same down headwind where they are. So that's that. We've got Fidelity Analyst, Bitcoin price up, down, debate, mostly noise. Watch networks. Apple-esque growth, and he goes on to compare Apple and their growth with Bitcoin, and he's essentially saying that the price doesn't always correspond, the sort of up-down price action doesn't always correspond to the underlying asset that it's trying to represent. Price is determined by buy and sell pressure. People still, and we've done videos on this prior, don't understand how we come up with a price. Where has this $50,000 price come from? How have we got to that? How has that been set? How have we come back from 70, around about 70k? Understand how markets work. If you want, and let me know in the comments, we'll do a long video about everything from market cap. We've already explained it all in prior videos, but I don't mind going over it again. And price is essentially determined price is determined at the margin. It's what's coming in and out of markets. Hodlers don't necessarily affect the price, or they do play a role in terms of taking supply off the table. Supply and demand eventually will filter through, and so on. So I thought this was interesting. I'm probably going to do a deeper dive into this. Brilliant tweet, by the way, from Jurian Timmer. I think I've retweeted this on my Twitter. If you want to follow me on Twitter, guys, it's @RealAllInCrypto. Now let's move on to Biden and what he is or isn't going to do. The Biden Biden expected to issue executive order on crypto and CBDCs next week report. We had one of these previously from Barron's, I think, was where the article was initially sort of broke, or the news was broke. And this is still something that's coming. And we've seen a number of other countries. India, we've seen Russia now, we've seen the Ukraine, we've seen Thailand, all move to positively regulate crypto and actually embrace it. Will the US follow suit? One thing that these other countries don't have is the world reserve currency, that I would argue Bitcoin threatens massively. And they've got to play. We spoke about Charlie Munger yesterday, who came out and said that he wished that they had just banned Bitcoin. And at the same time, he also said that you can see the fiat system, the dollar, going to zero over the next 100 years. Doesn't kind of contradictory, but are they going to? He's ultimately coming from a place that he wants to protect what he's built and the kind of system that he knows. The US is in a similar situation. They're not really, I don't think. They're going to have to do something to constrain it. I don't think they're going to outright ban it, but I do think they're going to put constraints on that are quite heavy. They're going to put some shackles on that really weight it down. because they have to. And they're also going to have to do something. And I'm going to speculate here with you guys. I think crypto still has a long way to go, and I don't think we've seen that kind of boom. I don't think we've seen the real bubble for crypto. I think this gets to tens of trillions. But I've often speculated, and this could just be complete and utter nonsense that's coming out of my mouth, but it might be an interesting thought for some of you guys to think about. If I was the US and I was losing, you know, people were losing faith within the dollar and they were moving to this other system, I would have a probably vested interest in the demise of that other system. So what happens if they pump crypto up and then cause a serious crash? And then where does everyone go? Back into the dollar. But that could all come in the future. I don't think that's anything that's happening soon, but I think that could be a play. But I can speak about that on a greater length in another video. Just some food for thought. But they've got to pump it up first. They've got to get Wall Street behind it, just like they did with the dot-com boom, just like they did with the housing market in 2008. And then they've got to sort of crash it in a similar way, which they could do. And then they've got crypto to blame. Bitcoin's bad. Everyone get to the dollar. I'm speculating completely now, guys. But I'm sure some of you don't necessarily mind that. So this is expected to come out next week. He's going to task a number of agencies within the government in, regulating, giving some sort of regulatory framework, and also the commissioning of a CBDC. They also spoke about the future of money as well and what that looks like, which I find exceptionally interesting because, you know, this is, if you understand money, you'll understand that it's really just a social experiment. And I recommended that book, 4,000 Years of Currencies, Debt, and Boom and Busts, I think it is, by David Arell. Amazing book. It breaks down 4,000 years of money, essentially. And it goes through, I mean, even people like Isaac Newton don't even realize Isaac Newton had a huge role to play in money and how we know it today. And it goes into people like John Law, who was one of the people that created one of the first fiat systems, and so on and so forth. So it's a very interesting book. But what you'll understand is that from reading that book is that money changes from time to time. We've had many different forms of money, whether that be sticks, and it's really a belief system that there's value within something. And crypto, I think, offers that same potential. So very interesting. I'm rambling on now, guys, but you get the gist of what this is all about. Markets up, down, you know, lots of risk. You've got the Russia, you've got the Fed. You've also got what happens if this comes out to the downside and they actually go, well, we're going to really penalize people that use crypto, which I don't think they'll do. I think they're more likely to maybe impose higher taxes, or even what I'd love is for them to create their own. Bitcoin's weird because everything's a commodity until proven otherwise. That's how things start, except for I think onions and something else, something weird. But you know, who knows what category they're going to put this in and how they're going to regulate it accordingly. But hopefully we should get some clarity on that. Let's just hope it's good, because if it's bad, it could be real detrimental. So that's really all I have for you. I think I've rambled on for long enough. Remember, I actually think given everything that's happened, Bitcoin isn't doing too badly, guys. It's essentially gone sideways for a year. It's consolidated. It's winding up for something. And that something could be adoption. You know, we've compared crypto users to internet users and just shown you how early we are within that adoption curve. And if we follow it, it's a very bright future that we have before us. So I'm going to love and leave you on that note, guys. If you've enjoyed this content, like is always appreciated. So is a comment. And hopefully I'll catch you all in the next YouTube video. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gents.